Hello everyone and welcome to May B&B 724 YouTube channel. Please hit the subscribe button and give this video thumbs up. Ridge tells Brooke the truth about Taylor. Ridge Forrester will be honest, first with himself and then with Brooke Logan, according to previews for The Bold and the Beautiful. Despite Brooke's numerous attempts to reunite with Ridge, he consistently ignores her and maintains his commitment to Taylor Hayes. Taylor will put that dedication to the test when the week of June 23rd to 27th begins. That's because Taylor is going to turn the tables on Ridge and make a beautiful marriage proposal. Will Ridge be open to making such a significant change with Taylor? Despite their prior marriage, Ridge may not believe that this is the ideal time for them to get married. Ridge might politely disappoint Taylor by implying that he prefers things the way they are. Ridge might try to talk Taylor out of getting married because he doesn't think it's necessary. However, there's a chance that Ridge will allow Taylor to persuade him to get involved, at least temporarily. Ridge might be concerned about disappointing Taylor, as he has done numerous times in the past. In any case, it's clear that Ridge will not be happy with this suggestion. That is demonstrated by Ridge's face in the B&B weekly preview video. Ridge will need to discuss all of this with Brooke later, regardless of the response he gives Taylor. After observing the two conversing at Illinois Giardino, Nick Marone will update Brooke on Taylor's proposal. Brooke will likely approach Ridge and question whether he truly intends to remarry Taylor as a result of that information. There will be some poignant moments during this conversation as Ridge finally opens up. Given that Ridge is going to tell Brooke the truth, it appears that he will provide a sincere justification for his opposition to a reunion. Ridge might provide an explanation for his behavior of pushing Brooke away and supporting Taylor instead. Will Ridge acknowledge that the true cause is Taylor's shattered heart syndrome? Ridge might acknowledge that he feels accountable for Taylor's health issues and contend that he simply cannot put her through any more suffering. Naturally, we are aware that Ridge and Taylor will break up in the upcoming weeks. If Taylor finds out that Brooke is still the woman he really wants, she might end up leaving Ridge herself. According to spoilers for The Bold and the Beautiful, Ridge and Taylor's recent chapter is about to end. Liam's tumor caused him to stalk Steffi, yet he still loves Hope. We choose to concentrate on the positive things that Liam Spencer has accomplished on The Bold and the Beautiful now that he is dying. However, viewers of B&B cannot forget that Liam Spencer was a terrible husband who attempted to end Steffi's marriage less than a year ago. Was Liam's devastating cancer diagnosis the real cause of his behavior? Soap fans are reminded of a few previous situations on The Bold and the Beautiful now that we know Liam has a tumor. Did the authors make a mistake? This is hardly the first time that authors have used a fatal illness to justify a character's strange or unacceptable actions. Living evidence of such can be found in Thomas Forrester. When Liam Spencer cheated on Hope Logan and then slut-shamed his still wife for dating Thomas, viewers of The Bold and the Beautiful weren't impressed. When Liam started chasing Steffi and pressuring her to cheat on her husband, Dr. John Finnegan, and file for divorce, he became even more sleazy. It would be an understatement to say that Liam was acting strangely. You can't help but question if his behavior was a symptom of his medical condition now that we know he has a tumor. Does that imply that he was impulsive and never intended to be with Steffi? Does Liam still have feelings for Hope Logan? There have been hints of a final steam reunion ever since Liam started spending his final days on the couch. However, it's possible that Liam wants to be with Hope and Carter Walton should be concerned. Will Hope bring Liam back? According to previews for The Bold and the Beautiful, Hope is likely to forgive Liam after realizing that he didn't mean half of what he said and did during the unpleasant breakup. Will is trying to get what he wants from Luna, but he has a plan. According to the promo for The Bold and the Beautiful, Will Spencer has a total change of heart when he kisses Luna Nozawa and laments the lack of thrill he has with Electra Forrester on the CBS soap opera. However, based on the preview's lack of enthusiasm, it appears Will may have more sinister goals than just pursuing pleasure. Therefore, we must ask, was there a reason behind the Spencer son's acute insanity, or did Will get weary of cold baths when Electra persisted in refusing him? According to B&B spoilers, Will is working with Finn and Steffi to change things for Luna the next week. Spoilers for The Bold and the Beautiful. Will Spencer attempts to enter the bedroom. Will Spencer was attempting to entice Electra Forrester into the bedroom on Bold and the Beautiful. She isn't ready, therefore that was a no-go. Luna Nozawa made every effort to entice Will into her bedroom at the same moment, but he refused. Will promised to wait until Electra was ready to advance their relationship, demonstrating his commitment to her. However, Will undergoes a significant transformation the next week on Bold and the Beautiful, as we witness him experiencing intense passion with Luna. Will informs Luna that Electra isn't providing him with the thrill he needs. They finish up in a lip lock when Luna kisses his neck and begins her engine purring. However, what is actually happening with Will? B&B spoilers. Will is disturbed as Luna Nozawa eats it up. All that comes to mind when watching this promo clip for Bold and the Beautiful is that Will Spencer flipped his lid. He would never hear the end of it if his friends or family discovered that he was hanging around with Luna. His love for Electra is undeniable. So what changed? Given that his father let Luna Nozawa loose on the world, is Will going to make amends? Will is in the same predicament as Finn because Luna is also endangering Electra. Luna Nozawa is focusing on Finn's wife because she accuses Steffi Forrester of abandoning his recently adopted daughter. Furthermore, it is well known that Luna eliminates obstacles. However, Electra is also viewed as a barrier by the insane young lady. She is obstructing Will Spencer, her romantic interest. Spoilers for Bold and the Beautiful. Luna runs away. Will ploy be successful? According to Bold and the Beautiful spoilers, Will, Steffi, and Finn will team up to oppose Luna on the CBS soap opera the next week. Will appears troubled by the kiss he gives Luna, but the spoilers also reveal that he is not alone. Additionally, Electra finds it repulsive that her boyfriend exchanges spit with a murderer. However, based on the spoilers, Will is acting in a very justified manner, and it seems to be working in part because, according to Bold and Beautiful spoilers, Luna will be on the run by the end of next week. However, there are no specifics about what makes Luna flee in the spoilers. We are aware that she is armed, and at least one of the bullets bears Steffi's name. Does Will's scheme, however, cause Luna to run away before she can put it to use? Or does Luna shoot someone and then flee? According to B&B spoilers, Will gets hot and heavy with Luna, but only to end her reign of terror and fear on the CBS soap opera. Rich Forrester sat by himself in the study of the Forrester mansion, his eyes unfocused and his fingers laced tightly under his chin as the weight of a lifetime of indecision, broken hearts, and layered betrayals weighed down on him like never before. Taylor's proposition had been a reckoning as much as a surprise. Rich had maintained stability for months, holding on to the admirable delusion that his devotion to Taylor Hayes was about mending past hurts, about atonement, and about demonstrating to himself that he could be the guy who stayed with the woman who had always supported him. Away from the romanticized visions of their past, however, and in the hard silence of reality, Ridge realized he was lying to himself, not to Brooke or Taylor. Ridge came to the realization that he could no longer lie after Taylor made a sincere and hopeful request for marriage. It was time to be honest with Brooke. It's about everything, not just the proposition. The true reason for his support of Taylor, the reason he had pushed Brooke away, avoided her, and attempted to numb his emotions with remorse and obligation. Broken heart syndrome was the label given to the cause. The faint beep of the hospital monitor, the ghost of tears clinging to her lashes, and her feeble grin as she spoke his name were all reminders of Taylor's near-death experience that had been haunting Ridge every night. He was the reason she had almost died. So he stayed. For punishment, not for love. Brooke Logan and Nick Marone were sitting at Illinois Giardino across town when Nick casually revealed something she wasn't ready to take in. Taylor proposed to Ridge. Brooke was forcing a grin and swirling her wine. Brooke did not recoil as the word struck her chest like a punch. Ridge had seemed aloof, preoccupied, and unwilling to interact emotionally even as he had hovered around her, and she had a sneaking suspicion that something was wrong. However, after learning of Taylor's proposal via Nick, it became urgent and real. What did he say, then? With a voice that hardly concealed the tremble of dread, Brooke asked. Nick shrugged, but she could tell by the concern in his eyes. Brooke, he didn't appear overjoyed. He appeared to be a man walking into a trap, in my opinion. Brooke sprang up abruptly, her mind already aflutter with feelings and concerns. She required responses from Ridge himself, not from Nick or Taylor. Despite every lie, betrayal, reunion, and breakup, she was determined to face the man who had always captured her heart, so she walked out of the restaurant. When Brooke stormed in, rage and desire fighting in her eyes, Ridge was standing by the fireplace back at the mansion. "Is it accurate?" she insisted. "Did Taylor ask you to marry him?" Ridge turned slowly as his face was grimly painted with guilt. "Yes," he said in a whisper. "What did you say, too?" Brooke's voice faltered. Ridge was silent for a while. Finally, he let out the truth. "I can't, which is why I haven't responded to her. Because my heart doesn't belong to Taylor, despite my best efforts to convince myself differently." That statement simultaneously destroyed and reconstructed something sacred. Unable to believe what she was hearing, Brooke froze, her breath catching. Ridge took a step forward, his voice full of passion. "Brooke, I've been pushing you away because I felt I owed it to Taylor, not because I stopped loving you." She nearly passed away. Her broken heart ailment was caused by stress, according to the experts. "I believed that by acting as though I was still in love with her, I might keep her safe. However, that is unfair. Not to her. Not to you. Not to me." Brooke's eyes filled with tears, but they were tears of recognition as much as sadness. She had known this Ridge all her life. Flawed. Human. Both profound fear and deep love are possible. There he stood now, exposing it. The drama was developing in more perilous ways around town. Will Spencer hardly recognized himself when he glanced in the mirror at Spencer Publications. Luna Nozawa had just been kissed by him. Will felt only icy fear in his stomach, despite the fact that her eyes were glittering with want, her lips were warm, and her touch was tempting, because it was strategy rather than emotion that led to the kiss. Will, Steffi, and Finn had devised a bold scheme. Get Luna to divulge her plans, divert her attention long enough to stop her next action, and perhaps emotionally disarm her. Once a naive intern at Forrester, Luna had become obsessed. She was a ticking time bomb because of her obsession with Will, her accusation that Steffi had caused her to become estranged from Finn, and her secret grudge against Electra Forrester. And Spencer's strategist Will, ever the obedient son, had consented to literally go into the fire. However, nothing had prepared him for the fact that he would be kissing Luna and seeing her sink farther into illusion. "Don't you sense it?" Luna ran his fingers through his hair and purred. Will's stomach rumbled, but he faked a smile. "Yeah, sure." Luna was immediately captivated once more. Electra, on the other hand, had witnessed the kiss, the whispering, and the treachery. However, Electra did not cry, in contrast to the unsuspecting ladies Luna frequently preyed on. She became calculated. Together with Steffi and Finn, she started recording Luna's unpredictable actions, obtaining proof, and even following her whereabouts. Luna posed a threat. More significantly, she had a weapon. The pistol, the threats, and the idea of Steffi's name being inscribed on a symbolic bullet had previously been discussed in the rumor mill. Luna was unraveling quickly, and time was running short. She believed Will was her savior, and she clung to him more and more each day, planning to kill anyone who stood in their way. Will's performance, however, was effective. By week's end, Luna started to distance herself, suspicious but perplexed. Will had approached, perhaps too closely. A part of him was also concerned that he was starting to recognize the female who was causing the lunacy. Once seeking a sense of belonging, this damaged soul ended up in a state of turmoil. With the weight of his diagnosis bearing down on him like gravity, Liam Spencer gazed at the ceiling back of the cabin. Cancer that is terminal. The fascination with Steffi, the unpredictable behavior, and the infidelity were all explained by a tumor. In addition to being a terrible husband to Hope, he had also been a controlling influence in Steffi's life. But now that he was dying, he could at last acknowledge that he had always loved Hope. Every insult to Hope was profound. Yes, Ridge did love her, but not as much as he loved Brooke. He never loved Brooke the way he did. Taylor was aware of it. A second plea, more human, more damaged, and more delicate than the first, was whispered, and her voice broke. She brought to his mind their past, their kids, and the healing they had both accomplished. She reminded him of the emotional tightrope she had been walking since their last argument and her broken heart syndrome. Rich shifted uneasily in his chair, his eyes flashing not only with uncertainty but also with shame, guilt, and a need for a more straightforward reality that he was unable to express out loud. He reached out of fear of hurting people more than out of clarity. Unbeknownst to them, Nick Marone was sitting at the bar, sipping a scotch and watching the action develop with the same passion as a man reading the last page of a book in which he had previously starred. He didn't have to hear every word, but he didn't. He could tell anything from the body language. And Nick had already planned his next move, still flushed from his own recent run-in with Brooke and smug with confidence. He would assure Brooke, yes, he would record every detail, including every moment of uneasiness in the air, every tear in Taylor's eyes, and every stammer Ridge made. Brooke needed to know that Ridge was still pursuing two ghosts at the same time, and she was one of them. Brooke laughed incredulously and triumphantly when Nick told her the story later over a bottle of white wine. She was aware that Taylor's offer was merely a Hail Mary pass to a man who was already looking in the direction of another end zone. With the smugness of a lady who had played this game for decades and still understood every move on the board, Brooke gloated, not in a mean way. She recalled Taylor's inquiries at Eric's estate earlier, how they swiftly shifted from worry to questioning as soon as Nick's name was mentioned. She now knew why. Taylor felt frightened. Even though Brooke knew it was envy in disguise, she allowed Nick's information to sink in as she repeated all of Ridge's remarks to her regarding boundaries with Nick. Meanwhile, Luna Nozawa was having her own fantasies in another section of town, one of which was that Will Spencer, who had recently broken up with Electra Forrester, was hungry for danger and drew Luna into a passionate kiss. But it became evident that all of this was in Luna's mind, a fevered dream of passion and conquest, as the candles flickered and the shadows swirled. As with her previous attachment to Hayes Finnegan, Luna was on a downward spiral, her obsession with Will turning into a dangerous fixation. The boundaries between the people she loved and the ones she wished to destroy were starting to blur as her fantasies became more vivid. Steffi and Hayes may not be the only ones in danger. When Ridge eventually responded, back at Illinois Giardino, Taylor was trying to grin, but it wasn't really a yes. It was a non-committal, I love you, Taylor, followed by the predictable let's not rush things. Taylor nodded, her eyes glossy, her throat dry, and her stomach sinking. She knew what that meant. It meant that once again, Ridge had chosen comfort over passion, safety over truth, the past over the future. She could feel the rejection coiled in his words like a viper ready to strike. And yet she smiled, because what else could she do? Across the table, Ridge sighed, the weight of indecision pressing down like a mountain. Meanwhile, back at Brooke's place, Nick was suggesting that Ridge's hesitation was all the proof she needed, that she was his true destiny, not Taylor. Brooke pretended to resist the idea, but her eyes twinkled with the same mischievous fire that once led her to seduce her daughter's husband, her sister's lover, and her best friend's soulmate. Ridge and Brooke were headed for another collision course, and the destination was Rome. Indeed, Brad Bell had confirmed it. The Italy shoot was meant to seal Bridge's reunion. Brooke and Ridge would walk the cobblestone streets of Florence, past marble fountains and beneath the shadow of ancient cathedrals, and somewhere between memories and mistakes, they'd decide that they couldn't live without each other. Taylor wouldn't be there to object. How could she? She was too busy convincing herself she hadn't just been rejected again. While Steffi would worry about her mother, and Thomas might try to mediate, Taylor would be left to suffer in silence, her heartbreak a familiar companion. But this time, she wouldn't spiral. Not publicly. Instead, she'd quietly plot her next step, and Nick might just be a part of that plan. Taylor and Nick had history. They'd both been second choices. Both had tasted rejection from the same people. Maybe this time, they'd choose each other. Maybe this time, the losers would win. Rumors swelled that Taylor might sail off with Nick, literally, leaving behind last toxic love triangles for the open sea. After all, Nick's destiny had always been the ocean. Why not let Taylor find hers beside him? Brooke would marry Ridge, of course, for the 12th time, maybe 13th. But the cycle would repeat, as it always did. Ridge would cheat, Brooke would cry, Taylor would return, and the carousel would spin again. But maybe, just maybe, Taylor was tired of the ride. Maybe she'd finally step off, anchor herself in new waters, and choose herself. Or maybe she'd return, with Nick by her side, and deliver one final blow to Ridge. You had your chance, and you blew it again. The end. Never. Not on this soap. Because just as Ridge kisses Brooke under the Italian moon, and Taylor sets sail into the unknown, Luna Nozawa lurks in the shadows, her fantasies brewing, her obsession growing, and her danger doubling. And as Steffi and Finn tighten security for Hayes, and while Spencer tries to make sense of Luna's unpredictable behavior, a new storm brews in L.A., one filled with betrayal, revenge, seduction, and maybe, just maybe, a murder mystery. But for now, Taylor's proposal is rejected. Ridge's love remains torn. And Brooke? Brooke gloatingly raises her wine glass, victorious once more in a war she never truly left.